But guess who's not preparing for the worst? Israel's Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu. Forget the worst, it's like he's not prepared at all. Netanyahu is yet to spell out his plan for Gaza, his post-war plan. So his cabinet members are unhappy, especially his defense minister, Yoav Gallant. He says Israel must not avoid this issue. Apparently, Gallant had proposed a plan back in October. First, Hamas would be defeated, then a local civilian administration would be set up, a bit like in the West Bank. But Gallant says his proposal is being ignored. He also rejected the idea that Israel's military could rule Gaza. Now, these are all big statements. It's a direct attack on Netanyahu's leadership by his own defense minister. So naturally, the prime minister has responded. He says, we'll deal with Hamas first. We'll discuss the day after later.
Since October, I have been raising this issue consistently in the cabinet and have received no response. The end of the military campaign must come together with political action. The day after Hamas will only be achieved with Palestinian entities taking control of Gaza, accompanied by international actors, establishing a governing alternative to Hamas rule.
Until it is clear that Hamas does not control Gaza militarily, nobody will be prepared to take upon himself the civil management of Gaza out of fear for their lives. Therefore, all the talk about the day after, while Hamas remains intact, will remain mere words devoid of content.
It's a clear rift in Israel's cabinet. But what has caused this rift? Is it Gallant's sudden desire for peace? Highly unlikely. This is a man who called Palestinians human animals. I don't think he's feeling moral urges now. Chances are it's something else. One reason could be strategy. Israel is pushing deeper into Rafah, but without a plan, their military could get stuck. They may defeat the Hamas, but they could face an insurgency after that. Even the U.S. National Security Advisor has warned of this.
They reflect his commitment to getting an outcome in Gaza and across the broader Middle East that protects Israel's future security and paves the way for a future of dignity and security for the Palestinian people as well, rather than Israel getting mired in a counterinsurgency campaign that never ends and ultimately saps Israel's strength and vitality.
It's common military strategy. Always have an exit plan. If you don't, you could get bogged down. Just look at what happened to the Americans in Afghanistan. Victory followed by insurgency. Israel's army could be headed the same way. Reports say the military top brass is worried about this, so that's one reason for Gallant's rebellion. Another reason is politics. Gallant may belong to Netanyahu's Likud party, but they do not see eye to eye. In 2011, Gallant was a general in Israel's army. He was poised to become the army chief, but Netanyahu cancelled the appointment. Gallant was accused of using public land for personal use, so his dream of leading the Israeli army was squashed. Later, he turned to politics. He became the defense minister in 2022, and soon he clashed with Netanyahu again. Gallant opposed the prime minister's judicial reforms, so Netanyahu fired him. He came back though. Hundreds of Israelis protested his removal, so Netanyahu had to bring him back, which brings us to present day. This is Gallant's chance to return the favor. He knows that Prime Minister Netanyahu is using the war to stay in office. So what does he do? He openly challenges his policy. And he's got support too. Fellow Minister Benny Gantz agrees with Gallant. He said the statement was true. And where does all of this leave Netanyahu? In a bit of a spot. His far-right allies say fire the defense minister, but that's easier said than done. A, because Israel is fighting a war, so firing a defense minister at this point could be tricky. And B, because it would be Gallant's second sacking. It could rally Israeli protesters again, so Netanyahu may be better off listening to his defense minister. He can either make his own plan or implement a plan that is forced upon him. And right now, that too seems possible. A very important meeting is being held in Bahrain, a summit of the Arab League. The grouping has 22 member states. The Arab League, 22 member states. Most of their leaders are attending this summit. Saudi Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman is there. Egypt's President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, Jordan's King Abdullah, Qatar's Emir, and even Syria's Bashar al-Assad. They're all present. While opening this summit, they made an important demand, a peace conference for Gaza, one that would lead to the two-state solution.
We call for an international conference for peace in the Middle East and the support for a full recognition of the Palestinian state and the acceptance of its membership in the United Nations.
How would this work? These talks will be overseen by the United Nations, but the plan is to hold them in Bahrain. It's a country that recognizes Israel, so even Israeli leaders should be able to attend. But will they? That depends on the pressure. The United Nations General Assembly passed a resolution last week. It demanded UN membership for Palestine. More than 140 nations backed that resolution. Only 9 voted against. So the Arab League is hoping to cash in on that sentiment. They know that global opinion is pro-Palestine, so now is the time to push on, hence this conference. Western nations will also be invited. They're hoping that the likes of the US can pressure Israel to attend, and honestly, it's a good idea. Chaos often does lead to progress. But a lot will depend on Netanyahu. He keeps rejecting Palestinian statehood. Even this week, he said it would be like rewarding terrorists. Unless Israel budges, no conference can make a difference.
Firstpost reports from the world's second largest continent. Hello, I'm Alison Lagrange. A very warm welcome from Durban, South Africa. We get you the news and the newsmakers from Africa. South Africa goes to the polls on the 29th of May. I will track the election and bring you ground reports. Is it the end of the road for the African National Congress? And will former President Jacob Zuma stage a dramatic comeback? From elections to climate change to innovations and opportunities. As the world's attention shifts, we report from Africa, the heart of the global south. Join me every weekday live on Firstpost.